And that was Quest for Glory 1. Now, one of the first thoughts you may be having is that it seems like a very short game. And it is. It's the first game in the series. It's a much older game. It's older than the graphics let you think, because what I played was the VGA remake. So it's an older game, and as the series goes on, they become more and more layered and longer and more complex. But one thing you do need to consider is each character type that you play through the game as is almost an entirely different game. The thief character has 2 break-in houses that you never get to see as any other class. Characters in the Thieves Guild that he interacts with. There's a mugging scene that I did not show as the wizard, because unless you're the thief, you get mugged. So and all of the puzzles have a different solution as the thief. And then the fighter is a much more straight RPG style experience. It focuses a lot on the fighting system, which you saw me avoid a lot. I'm not that good at the fighting system. I've never played as a straight fighter. The fighter gets points for killing every kind of monster in the game, so you want to hunt them down and fight them all. The thief gets points for different things. The wizard gets points for different things. So it really is 3 games in 1. Plus you can cross-class. You could have a fighter thief. You could have a mage thief or a mage fighter. And as the series goes on, there opens up a 4th class, which is kind of Fighter Plus, as I said. But that was the first game. Let's talk about the second game. The second game is longer. It's set in the Middle East, but think ancient Arabian Nights. Think Arabian Nights. That's what we're looking at. That kind of feel, that kind of vibe. Because there are genies. It's the home of those cat people, the Katas. But there's also humans around. We'll never see another kobold. That was the one and only kobold in the entire series. Luckily, we'll never see the Meeps again, so, you know, no more nightmares. The thing about the second game, though, is it's structured a little differently. The first game doesn't really keep track of days. Days don't really matter. It's just a day-night cycle. But it doesn't really matter if you beat the game on the first day or the 100th day. The second game has a fairly linear progression, in that at certain days, certain things happen. And you have X number of days to complete that task, or it's game over. And I'm trying not to spoil anything. But that's the basic idea. So if you really know what you're doing, if you've played the game a lot like I have, there are going to be entire days where you have nothing to do because you've done everything and you're waiting for the next trigger. But it's a Quest for Glory game. Those days where you have nothing to do, you're not really just going to sit around and watch the sun go through the sky. You're going to grind. There aren't chores to do like we did in the first game, but there are activities you can do. You can build up your magic spells just by shooting off firebolts in the desert, which is something I will probably do. There's also fighting training sessions at the Adventurers Guild. I'm going to do a lot of those too because it builds up a lot of stats. Even though my character won't actually participate in any combat until the 5th game, where it's no longer optional. There's a few things in the 3rd game, and there might be a thing or two in the 4th, but in the 5th game you gotta fight everything. So I'm gonna spend the 2nd game building up some of those stats. So you'll see a lot more of the clock cuts in the 2nd game, because on the days when there's nothing to do, my days will primarily be filled with, you know, just working out. So you're not going to miss out on anything. It'll be just like the last game. I'm just telling you to expect more of them. That's all. I like the 2nd game a lot. If I had to pick a favorite Quest for Glory, it'd be hard to decide between the 2nd and the 4th. I think the 4th has more polish, but it also has a darker tone, which is cool and fun. Well, fun's the wrong word. It's interesting and it's cool. But it also is different from the rest of the series. Most of the series has a lighter tone to it, and it's more fun and upbeat. And the 4th one's dark, and it's really well done, But it's hard for me to hold that up as an example of the best of the series when the general tone is at odds with the rest of the series. I love the fourth. But I think the second better represents the series overall. One last thing, I'm going to be playing the VGA remake of the second game. A group of gamers, they used to call themselves Tierra Entertainment. They changed it. And I forget what they go by now. I'll address it in the first video. But essentially, they remake old Sierra games with better graphics. That's most of what they do. And they do it really well. And I really like the way the VGA Quest for Glory 2 looks. Plus, it will keep in with us using the VGA version of the first game, so looks-wise, it'll fit in with the rest of the series better. I'm not going to spoil much else for you. The downside to doing the VGA version is I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to resort to the method I used for Gabriel Knight 2 and 3, which I hated, which was mounting the camera in front of the screen. I hate doing that. But I think it's going to be the best way to capture Quest for Glory 2 VGA, as it doesn't run through DOSBox, so I can't capture the footage that way. Anyway, I think I've talked long enough. That was just a wrap-up from the first game, a prep for the second game, Trial by Fire. It's going to be great. It's a fun game. We're going to continue the adventures of Beldernick in the lands of